Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from Deltiasgaming.com, and I've leveled like a gazillion characters in the Elder Scrolls Online, but this one's gonna be new. It's gonna be the Arcanist. You're gonna wanna watch this video for tips to level like a pro, because I get paid to do this. In this video, we're going to cover how the Arcanist works, what races and what playstyle should you select when you're leveling, really important skills that will help you survive, sustain, and do big damage, how to unlock the guild's weapons, set up your bar, get powerful really quickly, and reach endgame efficiently and effectively like a pro in the Elder Scrolls Online. If you get something out of this video, do me a big thumbs up, hit that like, leave me a comment. The algorithm loves this. Check the links below for builds, especially for beginners, in endgame PvE and PvP. Now, let's get started. How to level like a pro, the Arcanist style. So before you get set out on the Arcanist and leveling it, you need to know what the class excels at. It excels at PvE DPS. I personally like stamina based on the armor and the specific set bonuses you can get with medium armor. Love stamina, and it comes with medium to long range abilities. Magic DPS is very good and very survivable. It's just not as much damage at the high end game. The class excels at healing and tanking in PvE as well, and it comes out of the box number 1, 2, or 3 in almost every category in PvE. So it's extraordinarily strong in PvE. It's quite mediocre in PvP because you have to play it with range or a lot of proc sets. So I'd recommend you do, as regardless of what you're going to play at endgame, is play stamina or magic-based damage dealer to start. The Arcanist has a unique set of morph choices that make your ability cost whatever your max resource is. A lot of these abilities, it doesn't really matter what morph you take, it just matters what stat you stack. Magic and light armor is going to have big shields. Stamina is going to have a little bit more damage and a little bit more healing over time with resolving vigor. Both are very good, but I would pick one and start leveling this to get to endgame fast. Now that we got that discussed, let's talk about races to pick that really synergize well with this class. So here's a chart of what I recommend on your roles and your races. Stamina DPS, I like the Khajiit as the best because it's well balanced and has a huge, massive critical damage boost. A great secondary choice is Dark Elf because it's also well-rounded, giving you max stats, weapon, and spell damage, but lacks any resource recovery. As a magic-based damage dealer, High Elf has a unique 5% damage reduction while you're channeling, which is very, very good for the Arcanist. Dark Elf, great secondary choice. As a tank, I like Imperial because it allows you to cast spells a lot more frequently and get your ultimate with a reduced cost. And then Nord, it comes in very, very sturdy and generates a lot of ultimate. As a healer, I like Breton primarily because of the resource sustain, and Argonian as a backup choice, especially if you're going to do some PvP healing. So those are my recommendations on how to level this. You can take it or leave it and what races to pick. Let's jump in game and make sure you understand how the basics of the Arcanist work, and then we're going to talk about the best way to start. So when you reach end game, your character is ready to go and start dominating. So here we are in game, and this is my end game Arcanist character on the PTS. So I have 3,600 champion points every single year, and I've played it over 100 hours. I want to explain to you very briefly how this works so you can understand when you're leveling. No matter what I say, no matter how many videos you watch, you're going to have to get in here and play and tinker it with yourself. It's going to feel very strange and very foreign, but stick with me. It's very powerful if you can make it just a little bit into the leveling process. So what the Arcanist does is it generates Crux, or Cruxes, plural. And how you do this is use a variety of different abilities. You can see that green glow, one little item floating around my character. It goes up to a max of 3. Now you have abilities that consume Cruxes and also generate them. So I'm using the very first ability that you get in the skill line, Runeblade, obviously as a Crux builder. You can see those floating things going around me. They do not go away unless you consume and use them. So the goal of this class is to generate 3 Cruxes and then use it for an extra effect. So what the class revolves around is this Fate Carver as a damage dealer. It's a long 4.5 second channel. I'll show you how it looks. You use it like this, and you have to aim it. And you can see as soon as I use it, those Cruxes go away and are consumed. So you're going to constantly build Cruxes and then consume them, typically with Fate Carver as a damage dealer. But this also applies to healers and tanks as well. Let me show you. This class has 3 skill lines. The first one, the top Herald of the Tome, is DPS. The second, Soldiers of Apocrypha, where my soldiers at, is the tank skill line, and then Creative Runes is the third. Now, when you go to the tank skill line, typically the first ability up in the skill line typically generates a Crux. with the second two, one or both morphs, consuming the Crux. You can read this simply by pulling your mouse over it. So Rune Spite of Ward, consuming Crux to heal yourself for 2,000 health, scaling off your max health. So even tanks use this, and you can use a Crux generator as your first #1 ability. Same thing with healers as well. Now this one here doesn't necessarily generate a Crux, but it's kind of acts as your burst heal. It's more of a heal over time. So you, out of the gate, have a heal over time from the heal skill line. You have this ability, Runic Jolt, which looks kind of weird. It actually taunts enemies and doesn't require a weapon. Pretty unique. One of the morphs is actually pretty good because it heals yourself. So it can act as a damage main spammable. That heals you. Very, very useful when you start in Struggle Survivability. And then Rune Blades, which is your Crux builder by default, but you don't really use this a lot at endgame. It's just out of the gate. So simply, you're gonna build up Cruxes, up to 3 typically, and then activate it for a big, huge attack. You can see number 2 on my bar light up. It's ready to consume the Cruxes at max Crux and do an extra effect. This can be more healing, resource sustain, lower cost, more damage. You get the point. This is how the class works. So here we are at the starting screen. Gonna start a new character. I'm gonna level up as a Khajiit and kind of show you how to get an optimal start with the Arcanist and make it very, very easy and effective when you reach endgame. Khajiit, Aldemary Dominion, let's go. Okay, we just finished up the tutorial and I skipped the tutorial. Brand new Arcanist character. What I'm going to show you is going to help you out dramatically when you reach endgame. Trust me. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to claim our rewards, and it's going to give us some skill points and level us up. So in order to get those rewards, you need to actually claim it and make sure you stack one attribute only. Your abilities will scale in effectiveness regardless of what attribute you stack, especially the damage dealer, either magic or stamina. So you need to stack one. Do not split them. Okay, so I've leveled up. Very important tip here. During the leveling process, you want to take one skill from each skill line and keep it on your bar the entire leveling experience, regardless if you use it or not. So typically what I do, as soon as I start a character, I take the very first skill in each of these because you're going to get access to them right away. You also get access to another skill, Soul Trap, so you get a free 4th ability on your bar that's going to be extraordinarily useful in just a minute when you get this puppy to morph. The reason why these 3 skills on your bar are so important is because you want to level all of these skill lines up to level 50. In fact, your character will most likely hit level 50 without even maxing out these skill lines. It's kind of goofy, but that's the case. And the reason why it's so important is all of these passives make your character powerful. It's not necessarily just the active skills. You only get 5 skills on your bar, but you can take literally hundreds of passives, and this adds power to your character without taking a bar slot, without taking any gear, and it's a great way to have a really good entry to endgame, constantly swapping skills out as you level and progress them, changing out morphs, so when you reach endgame, not only will your skills be leveled and morphed, but you'll also have access to everything and all the passives, including the ultimates and abilities later. Even if you don't think you're going to use them, trust me, 3 and +1, you're ready to go. So now we're level 3, and we have to do something else that's extremely important, and that's setting up gear for success. So I'm going to show you how to do this. You get a little bit of food in here with the fortified crown store thing, and then you get a strong arm box with a soul gem and a couple of little itty bitty weapons. So we're going to set up our armor and weapons first, and this will dictate how we level and why. All right, so very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a way shrine to the starting city of my choice and get some armor, because we don't have that in our starter bag. So just one I'm really familiar with is Glenumbra with the Daggerfall Covenant. So I'm just gonna take the Way Shrine there, and I'm gonna assume you have a little bit of gold and you've been watching this. If you have 0 gold and it's your first time ever playing, you simply just need to do one quest or just kill some stuff randomly, and most likely you'll have enough gold to get what I'm about to show you. So I'm in the town square here in Daggerfall Glenumbra, and the Daggerfall Marketplace is gonna have various vendors for weapons and armor. This is very important because when you very first start out, you're not even having the armor unlocked. So what it takes to unlock the armor is to equip 3 of the pieces on your body at all times. How we're gonna level is gonna be very intentional. We're gonna have 3 of our main armor choice, 2 and 2 of the other. We have 7 total slots, and we're gonna fill it up. So you want to reach endgame with your primary, stamina being medium armor, magic being light armor, and then your secondary being light or medium, and then your final one being heavy. You never know when you're going to tank, heal, play stamina, or magic, and you're almost always going to use at least 2 pieces of armor type. More on that later, so stick with me. This is what we're going to do. So I have a little bit of gold, and you come equipped with that traveler's bag with 2 heavy, 2 medium, and 2 light. So really all you need to buy is 1 medium, heavy, and light on your head slot, put it on and equip and unlock the skill line. So first up is the tailor, and I'm gonna grab a headpiece, light armor, level 3, and equip it. And boom, I gain the skill line for light armor. Same thing with medium. We're gonna go over here and find medium. Medium's gonna be at the leather worker. Grab you. Get me a nice little cap here for 300 gold. Equip that. Boom, I lock medium armor, and now we're gonna unlock heavy. It should be at the armor right here. And perfect. We're gonna go heavy. And so less than 1,000 gold, which you can get pretty much right away if you're watching this and played quite a bit. You should have 1,000 gold in a different character. And now we have basically all of our class skills ready to go, and we have our armor unlocked and ready to go. Because remember, this is what makes you powerful. If you ever question how to level something, you just need to simply put your mouse over it or your cursor over it, and it kind of tells you, improve this skill by earning XP with heavy armor equipped. Equipping additional pieces of heavy armor is also going to increase this. So since we're going to play a medium armor DPS, we're going to have 3 medium armor on, 2 heavy, 2 light. Again, throughout the entirety of your leveling experience, if you do this, you will reach at endgame with pretty much all of these close to being maxed out or at least maxed out, along with your class skill lines. Are you following me? This is how pros do it. Now, we're not done yet. What's the missing recipe here? Well, it's obviously the weapons. Now, with the weapons, we already got some, so let's take a look at what we got. I personally run quite a different build. At endgame, I usually run actually a back bar destruction staff, and I run dual wield and PvE DPS. So we look at this, we have a 2-handed axe we can unlock. We have 1 dagger, and it looks like a flame staff, 2-handed, 2-handed. So I'm gonna unlock dual wield first by putting this here and putting this here. But you notice just equipping it is not enough. So we just need to go outside of the town real quick and then just kill 1 or 2 critters and it should unlock. I just nuked a poor sheep. I'm sorry if you're an animal lover, but we have to get our skill lines unlocked. And that just kill, I think that skeever or a rat is enough, not necessarily experience points, to get the dual wield skill line unlocked. While we're at it, might as well throw on Inferno Staff and kill another poor sheep. I'm sorry, don't call PETA on me. There's another one. Well, I guess we have a bunch of others, so you might as well throw a resto on and just get them unlocked, eh? And I got resto unlocked. So I have a variety of different weapon choices unlocked and ready to go. So we're gonna basically do dual wield at endgame as our front primary bar. This is where we want the experience to start coming in. You go to dual wield here, put your mouse over it, and it tells you exactly how you use it. Improve this skill by earning XP with dual wield abilities and a pair of 1-handed weapons equipped. So there's actually 2 specific ways you can use it. You can have it equipped and have 0 abilities from dual wield on your bar, or you can have just a dual wield ability on your bar and not even use dual wield. Why is this relevant? Because we're gonna cheese the system so that way when we reach level 15 and we can bar swap, we already have weapon skills leveled and ready to go for our back bar weapon. Now I have some extra skill points. I'm still level 3 and I have some skill lines unlocked. I have the armor unlocked and I have it equipped ready to go. So what I'm gonna do now is buy a skill for my primary skill. So that's dual wield. And then I'm gonna buy a skill that I plan on using at level 15, the skill line that I plan on using at level 15. I play a goofy hybrid build, so I use a combination of magic and stamina-based abilities. Do whatever you're comfortable with. This could be bow, this could be resto staff. It doesn't matter. Whatever you're attracted to, you can always redo this at endgame. So for our perspective, we're going to use destruction staff because I'm assuming that's what I'm going to use at endgame. Now, going back to point 1 about setting up your skills 1, 2, and 3 from the skill lines, we're actually going to do the exact same thing with dual wield. So we're going to put a dual wield skill on our bar regardless if we use it in the 5 key. We're going to put a destruction staff ability on our bar regardless if we use it in the 4 key. And you can see I actually cannot use this ability because I did not have a destruction staff equipped. Why we're doing this is when you level, remember it's either equipping the item or having a skill on your bar. So we're going to kind of cheese the game by leveling up the skill line passively, the skills, get it morphed, and get it ready to go. So when we have a bar swap, we can use a back bar weapon and we already have multiple skills. Instead of what happens normally is you hit level 15 and you go to your back bar, you have no skills. You don't even have enough skill points to get it. This is a way around it. So when you have a lot of skills that you're leveling and constantly morphing, you can see as a leveling experience, the biggest barrier to you getting powerful is actually skill points. It's not necessarily gear straight away. If you have enough skills, you can resource sustain, do damage, and healing, and it's the skill point chase with sky shards and so forth we'll go over a little bit later that becomes really, really imperative. So far, we've unlocked the class skills, we got them all on our bar. We unlocked weapons that we're going to use at endgame, and we have at least one skill on our bar. So this will take us to level about 10 or so where we can get an ultimate choice and free up another skill on our bar. At level 15, we're going to get a bar swap. But we're not done yet in the starter town to give you really, really good experience on starting out the game. Next thing I do is I come back into the starter area of whatever faction, whatever zone I'm in, and I want to unlock 3 specific guilds straight away. Fighters Guild, which is this icon here with the sword, Mages Guild, and then Undaunted. We are Undaunted. The reason why is some of this is not retroactive, and you're going to want to access this. And even if it is retroactive, you're going to be using these skills on your bar even at mid to late endgame. So it's really important and imperative to unlock these 3. There's actually a 4th guild that you can unlock called Psijic Order. To unlock Psijic Order, in case you don't know, you need to come clear on the southwest part of your map, own the Somerset chapter DLC or whatever. ESO Plus provides this for you. There's going to be an introductory quest right here. So come to this way shrine, look for an NPC that's going to lead you on a quest. The quest is called the Queen's Decree. You're going to complete that quest, which will unlock a zone here, the Arterium, or however you pronounce that. I can barely pronounce things. You're going to complete that. The reason it's so important to unlock Psijic Order and do this quest is because simultaneously you can bang out a lot of stones or a lot of birds. A lot of birds with 1 stone. That's the saying, right? So you can see all these annoying sky shards I have to pick up, right? There's going to be something similar called time rifts. So you can go from the zone and basically level up a lot at one time. Lore books, aka Mages Guild, Sky Shards, aka skill points, Psijic Order time rifts, aka Psijic Order, and you can do world bosses, get experience points, and then when you reach endgame, it'll be very easy to get there. Plus, you'll have all these important guilds maxed out, ready to go, the skills unlocked, and be very powerful. Versus just skipping all this, having to come back and do it all over again. So now you're going to have your skills unlocked, you're going to have your armor, your weapons, your guild. Let's skip ahead and jump ahead to a mid-game player at level 25 before I show you the end game. So we're back in game, and we're going to start with the level 25 Arcanist and setting up some skills that are really important and will help you out survival, doing damage, and resource sustain. You got to start with survivability first. Thankfully, you get a heal starting off right away, and I like Evolving Rune Mend specific morph. This is not the best. Later on at endgame, Alliance War, Assault and Support, Assault skill line, you're going to get Resolving Vigor, and then also light armor users can use a big shield, Harness Magic, or Dampening Magic from the light armor skill line. But this will get you by straight away. And when you go to the Soldier of Apocrypha, you're going to actually get a range spammable that you can cast and get a heal while doing damage. Very, very good if you struggle with survivability. And then you get Rune Blades. Personally, I don't use Rune Blades on pretty much any of my builds for PvE and PvP, and I'll show you why. The second ability in the skill line is Fate Carver. This is the entire class's identity as a damage dealer is this 4.5 second beam, which I already explained to you. Well, there's 2 really powerful morphs. Exhausting Fate Carver, which just goes a little bit longer, essentially dealing more damage. And then you have Pragmatic Fate Carver, which is 4.5 seconds, and it gives you a massive shield, whether you're magic or stamina. So this is the survivability solo PvE morph that you're going to go, and you get it pretty quick early on since it's the second skill in your bar. So I would skip Rune Blades, just unlock it, put in your bar to unlock the skill line and get it progressing, but then I would go straight to Pragmatic Fate Carver. So we put this on instead of Rune Blades, and you can see just how powerful that shield is. You can see my bar is has that light oranges color. That's the entire shield. So this will keep you survivable when you're sitting there being vulnerable doing this 4.5 second beam. And you can move, you can clearly move, but you have to aim it. You put it at the ground, it does 0 damage. It doesn't auto lock, so you're gonna have to be cognizant of where you're pointing and where you're aiming, and it will take a little bit of gameplay to get used to this. Now, the second best ability in the skill line, if not the first best, is actually the third skill, Abyssal Impact. So the base morph here does increase damage to enemies. It's AoE. It does have a cast time of 0.3 seconds. That's actually different than a channel. Why the relevance here with the cast time is you're vulnerable to heavy attacks and damage. So this isn't instance-based. You click it, very slight little animation that will make you vulnerable to getting heavy attacks. So be careful when you use this. One of the most powerful morphs the class has is this flail. I can't pronounce the first word. I'm a YouTuber. I can barely read. So I'm going to put this on. I'm going to show you just how powerful this is. So this does a debuff for 20 seconds, giving you specifically 5% more damage. And look how much healing it does. 2,000. At endgame, this thing can crit for 8,000 to 9,000 heal every time you cast it. So it builds Cruxes, it heals you, it does AoE damage, and it feeds your Cruxes into pragmatic fake armor rather, and that gives you a shield. Those two abilities paired together is all you essentially need for a basic damage dealer that is very, very survivable. One spam of the build Crux, it heals you. One big long beam, it gives you a nice big shield. That's the basis of it. Another incredibly powerful skill right away that you get for survivability, what I use on one bar builds, is this Rune Spite Ward. This specific here, Spite of the Lucid Mind, I take this, consumed Crux to refund the cost. What this does, it gives you a big shield, and it also heals you, and it reflects damage. So what's unique about this one in comparison to Light Armor Harness Magic Shield is it doesn't require you to use any armor. You can use it as a medium armor ability. You can use it as a heavy armor ability. The downside is the shield's effectiveness scales based off of max health. So as a damage dealer, you're not going to have a lot of max health, but it's going to do a lot for you. It's going to give you a shield, and it's going to heal you. You can combine that with Rune Mend and have really strong survivability while doing damage and when reacting, both with the shield and a heal over time. This is what will carry your survivability. What carries your resource sustain very, very early on if you struggle it and you're not used to basically being able to cast indefinitely is you come to the world skill line and ability I talked a little bit earlier, Soul Trap. This is a damage over time, but you can get it right away called Consuming Trap. When you use this on an enemy, 20-second dot hits pretty hard, believe it or not. When that thing dies with this effect on it, it gives you health, magic, and stamina. All three. This makes you incredibly high survivability and incredible resource sustain. By level 15, when you get a back bar, I highly recommend putting this on your back bar and throwing it on targets that are likely to die quickly. This will carry your resource sustain early on in the game. As your character progresses, what you need to get access to is Tome Bearer's Inspiration. This essentially just gives you a little bit more damage when you're doing your class abilities. It also gives you Major Brutality and Major Sorcery, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 20%. And it applies on both bars, so no matter what bar you're on, this will really help you out. So what you do is you take Recuperative Treatises, I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, but that's how I read it, so quit bugging me in the comments. When dealing damage, restore magic and stamina. This takes over for your resource sustain and makes the Arcanist very, very good with resource sustain later on while you're doing damage. So you can see these three abilities here are exceptionally strong in the damage dealing skill line. Resource sustain, AoE damage healing, AoE damage and a big shield. And you can combine that with something over here, Soul Magic Consuming Trap, and that will cover your resource sustain along with your healing. As far as damage over times go, the Arcanist in and of itself does not have a whole lot of damage over times. In fact, it's actually much more forgiving for folks that aren't good at damage over time. But in case you want one, you come here and the last skill in the skill line acts as your big AoE damage over time with two morphs. One, it's going to pull in enemies. This is good for trash pulls and playing solo. And then Fulminating Rune, this is better damage and has a synergy, better for group play. And that's your main damage over time. So going back to the Mages Guild and Fighters Guild, a couple really strong dots is, believe it or not, Entropy early on. So Entropy is a very long-lasting dot, 24 seconds. It does a good bit of damage. But if you need extra healing, you can get this pretty early when you're leveling your skill line and go with Structured Entropy. This is going to do heal over time when the damage over time is active. So believe it or not, at endgame, this is 4,000 heals, almost a second if it crits. Fantastic ability, and the Arcanist has built-in weapon and spell damage buff for Recuperative Treatises, so you don't need the other morph. So hypothetically, on your back bar, you could run a really strong resource sustain skill, Consuming Trap, and then you could go from the Mages Guild here and run a very strong heal over time with this. And if you're tracking and what didn't skip ahead in the video, you can grab Spite Ward of the Lucid Mind and have a very strong shield right here, leaving 2 abilities that could be utility like speed, another damage over time, or something that you like maybe at range. And that's a really good bar setup. You flip to your front bar and then you'd have your AoE debuff / a spammable that's going to heal you. Then you have your resource sustained recuperative treatises right here. And then you have your pragmatic fate harbor. And that leaves a couple of abilities, whatever you want from the skill line. You could also level them up. I'd highly recommend for dual wield users to level up Blade Cloak and take Deadly Cloak. This gives good AoE damage and it gives major evasion. So that's really going to be fantastic for those who are in the mix with the Arcanist and wants to do endgame PvE later on. Extraordinarily strong. For those magic-based users, what I'd recommend leveling up is Wall of Elements and taking Unstable Blockade. This is really strong damage over time. You're going to be running this at endgame. Another skill from Destruction Staff, highly recommend Weakness to Elements, Elemental Susceptibility, Burning Shield and Concuss status effect, and Major Breach. Very, very, very strong for solo play, and one of the main reasons I run a Destruction Staff as a quote-unquote stamina build at endgame. And so then you have very strong front bar, you're leveling 2 skill lines, you could swap one out for a shield, you're ready to go. As far as ultimate choices go, they're very, very good, all of them. They were not when this thing first came out, they are good now. The Unblinking Eye does an enormous amount of damage. The first morph up here, the Tide King Gaze, I'd highly recommend because it tracks targets, so it's gonna follow a target. The other one here is I can't even pronounce it, the eye. I'm just going to call it the eyeball. It does increase damage, but it doesn't track. So that's more for like endgame high DPS when you know the boss is going to be stationary. This ultimate here, the shield, is amazing survivability. And then this Sanctum of the Abyssal Siege is going to get a bigger shield. And this thing here is going to basically give you some group utility. I usually like the bigger shield and it reflects and does damage for you. It's fantastic. And then this one here is more of a utility heal skill. So it's going to put something down in a 15-meter radius, which is really big. And the big thing that's unique about this is it gives a unique weapon and spell damage buff. Very, very good at endgame PvE or PvP, but it's not mobile. So I like the default tank ultimate on my back bar for survivability. And then I have the front bar with the Tide King Gaze for damage. Now, when you want to optimize and work on some things a little bit later, Mages Guild, Fighters Guild is going to be your priority. Dawnbreaker, because you want Flawless Dawnbreaker on your front, primarily because of the passives. Slayer passive, going to give weapon and spell damage for each Fighters Guild ability slotted, and then Banish the Wicked is going to get ultimate back every time you kill something while you're on your front bar with a Fighters Guild ability slotted. So most endgame players go like this, flip this to the back, and if they have enough survivability, they don't need a damage, the defensive survivability, boom. Have Flawless Dawnbreaker here, pump up the weapon and spell damage, generating ultimate, drop the ultimate, bar swap, boom, you're good to go. And that's the basis of setting up your bar at mid-game so you kind of know what to work towards. Now let's finish this off and how to level quickly and efficiently. Now let's talk about experience boosters and modifications to experience. So there are essentially scrolls or drinks that you can get. These are Crown Store ones that you get pretty much throughout leveling process, or you can buy them, but you can also use in-game gold to get them, so don't feel like you have to go to the Crown Store. But if you play for a bit, you're just gonna get access to these. You can pass them to other characters as well. They come in 50, 100%, and then 150 experience. And again, matching consumables you don't have to spend real world money for if you don't want to. But you're going to get access to a lot of these. So you can apply one of those. Also, you can use a training trait. And this one here is for the set of the training. Increase experience gain from kills by 10% on all the pieces of your armor, along with your weapons as well. So those things stack on top of each other, they don't cancel out. Some other XP modifiers are ESO Plus, being married to another player, which requires the Ring of Mara and a ceremony. You have to wear it, so it's a little bit hardcore. Being in a group as well will give you another 10%. And if there's any like in-game events, they stack. The easiest way is to craft up a bunch of gear for yourself in the training trait, to group up with the buddy, and then also to pop one of those scrolls or drinks while you're leveling, and the XP will start flowing. The best activities to do in general are these dungeon finders and battleground finders. Unlocked at level 10, this will give you a massive flood of experience once per day on your individual character. Also, while you're talking about leveling, the best way to go about it, I've already talked about clearing out the zones, right? You go to each zone, there's tons of sky shards and different things to do in lore books on a gazillion different places to go. You're gonna need a lot of skill points. And skill points are very easy to obtain in dungeons. So there is one thing specific in a public dungeon. Defeat 3 of these champions. You're not looking for this achievement. You're looking for slay a specific boss inside of a public dungeon, gives you a skill point. And it's in every single base game zone. They also have a sky shard inside of them. So while you're running around doing your dailies, doing your dungeon finder, you're gonna go to a public dungeon and kill a boss. Let me show you. Okay, here we are in Deshaun, and this is what a public dungeon looks like. We're in the Forgotten Crypt. So it comes with the sky shard and also comes with a specific boss you need to kill. This is an add-on. You can find this information at the unofficial Elder Scrolls page on where these are and what these look like. But this is the area. So just from doing this 1,000 times, you essentially have to kill these Kwama for the bosses to appear. So I'm going to go ahead and kill these Kwama, nuke these bosses down, and see if we get a skill point. All right, so there's the bosses are appearing. Let's just drop a nuke on them here. And later alligator. Gained 1 skill point. So again, you can do this, I think 18 zones including Cold Harbor. I'm not good at math, that's why I'm a streamer, but you get the point. Going from zone to zone to zone to zone. The best way to do this is just go into a guild, and usually people are at different zones. There's an add-on that helps you do this as well, but you can just bounce around from zone to zone to zone, knock those sky shards, lore books, public dungeons out, and skill points. A further tip I would give you for a lot more skill points is, at level 10, you're going to get access to doing the dungeon finder, which is great. The first one you queue up for and do is going to be one of the easiest dungeons in the game, right? So it's going to be Spindle Clutch 1, Banish Cells 1, and so forth. Do them all, because they're going to give you a skill point, they're going to give you XP turn-in, and then they're going to unlock other dungeons around that level that you can do. So you can actually go in here and go Dungeon Finder and go specific dungeons in the group menu, and then it tells you which ones you're eligible for. I'm at max level, so it shows them all available. But every single one in here gives you a skill point. And you can obviously do the veteran version as well. So you can see you can get a lot of skill points, a lot of XP without ever grinding zombies. Why that's useful is you're going to have to level and max out 1, 2, 3, 4 times 2. And then you have to times it by this and by that and the weapon skill line. So dual wield and destruction staff and light armor and medium armor. Then you're also going to have to do the fighters guild and the mages guild. Sigic order if you're using that. Undaunted for more max resources. Alliance, assault and support. Your racial passives. And also medicinal use and alchemy, because that will actually make you do more damage, because your weapon and buffs and your spell damage and your critical buff are usually tied to potions. So you can see the skill points start to add up. And that's really the efficient leveling process, is to get those skill lines, get those armor, get those helpful skills, but keep rotating them so when you reach endgame, everything's unlocked, ready to go. Okay, now I'm going to give you a list of gear sets for leveling, PvE, DPS, healing, and tanking along with PvP that you're going to try to collect. For leveling, the ideal set is basically Heartland's Conqueror, the training trait, because this doubles the trait's effectiveness. So you have training on your weapons, it will really help you leveling. Pair that with a set like Order's Wrath for damage, Daedric Trickery for survivability, Oblivion's Foe, another good damage set, or Wretched Vitality for resource sustain. Make sure you craft these armor sets at level 3, 10, 20, 30, etc. all the way to 50 so you keep staying powerful. For damage dealers at endgame PvE DPS, I'd recommend Deadly Strikes, Perfected Coral Riptide, Perfected World of Depths, Pillars of Nirn, or Solzon's Torment. Anzul's Torment is also going to be another set that's going to unlock with the newest trial, not on this list, but think about picking it up. And for healers, Spell Power Cure, Master's Architect, Pillar's Prophet, Powerful Assault, Jorbal's Guidance, Roaring Opportunist. For tanks, Turning Tide, Crimson Oath, Pearlescence Ward, Powerful Assault, Olimire Saxiel's Champion. And really good PvP sets, Mara's Bomb, Plague Break, Essence Thief, Rallying Cry, Daedric Trickery, and Hissap. So now you have a clear understanding of how to get to endgame like a pro. So when you reach there, you'll have your guilds maxed out, your skills. Your skills will be morphed and leveled. You'll know exactly what gear to get, how to unlock the armor, how to unlock the guilds, and what you should be doing as you level in the Elder Scrolls Online. Start clearing out the zones, collecting the things you need to get powerful, like skills points and lore books and so on, because the end game will be there. Take your time, have fun, and enjoy learning the Arcanist class. It's quite different, quite unique, and I absolutely love it. If you got something out of this, hit that thumbs up. leave me a comment below and check the links in the description for the Arcanist builds and more. Also consider checking me out on twitch.tv/Deltiasgaming, where my mom claims I'm the best streamer alive. Appreciate you.